Hello and welcome to the 49ers First and 10 podcast, 10 minutes of the most up-to-date 49ers news first thing in the morning. I'm your host, Brianna McDonald, and I'm joined by 49ers team reporter Lindsay Pallares and special guest Craig Grialou, Arizona Cardinals digital content coordinator. Craig, thanks for joining the podcast.
My pleasure.
Now, Craig, the Cardinals are coming off their bye week that followed a Week 13 win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Can you bring us into the state of Arizona's team right now and what their mindset is like getting ready to welcome the 49ers into town?
Well, this team has 4 games left, and then they know their season is done. But it's 4 more games with Kyler Murray at the quarterback position. And I think that's what all Cardinal fans have been waiting for this season is Kyler Murray's return. So he's played 4 games, going to the bye week. They are 2-2 with K1. And now coming out of the bye week, 4 more games. And whether or not you buy momentum from one week to the next or one season to the next, still 4 important games for this team moving forward to try to figure out. It's all been evaluation for this first season under general manager Monty Ossenford and head coach Jonathan Gannon, finding out, one, what scheme works on both sides of the ball, and then which players fit within that scheme moving forward.
All right, and for the 49ers, Lindsay, it's been a series of back-to-back physical and high-stakes games for the team after facing divisional opponents and the rematch of the NFC Championship game. And really, it's not slowing down anytime soon. But what has the team shared about taking it 1 week at a time and dialing in on the task at hand?
You're exactly right, Bree. That Seattle sandwich is kind of that 3-game stretch that was identified, I guess, by a lot of the fan base and just outside the building as a very, very tough stretch. Turns out they were exactly right. The 49ers have done a tremendous job of just, like you said, zeroing in at the task at hand. And that's really very much the mentality they're carrying forward in these last 4 games of the regular season. The big wins that happened prior to Week 15, they are now in the rearview mirror. We heard both Nick Bosa and Fred Warner and a number of other 49ers just talk about how they're looking ahead to Week 15 Arizona Cardinals because it's just as high stakes. The NFC crown is on the line should the 49ers be able to pull off a win this weekend. That will lock up the division, which is just one more step to the ultimate goal that they're looking at, which is, again, just ideal playoff positioning and putting themselves in the best spot moving forward to the postseason. Every win counts with a very, very tight race at the larger conference level.
And for quarterback Brock Purdy, Sunday's contest is going to be a homecoming game for him, as he's originally from Arizona. This will be the first time he's competing in his home state as an NFL player, which is definitely an exciting moment for him. But Lindsay, can you speak on what his performance has been like in recent weeks and what you've learned about his game over the team's past few wins?
Yeah, Brock Purdy is firing on all cylinders. I mean, he picked up another NFL award this week. He was the FedEx Air Player of Week 14 for his performance against the Seattle Seahawks. And he really just continues the tear that he's been on. He's leading several statistical categories. He is number 1 in passer rating, number 1 in yards per attempt, number 1 in completion percentage, number 2 in passing yards, and tied for second in touchdown passes. He's just really continued to stack success throughout the season and very much deserves being in that MVP conversation that he's thrown in along with running back Christian McCaffrey. A lot of good coming from Brock Purdy at that quarterback position, and he'll get to make that first career start in his home state coming up this weekend.
And Craig, we want to hear about the Cardinals quarterback, also Kyler Murray. The 49ers haven't faced him since Week 5 of the 2021 season. What's changed over the past 2 years, and what should San Francisco be expecting on Sunday?
Well, a lot's changed as far as what offense Kyler is playing now. More under center, more play action. He's still in shotgun, but I think Kyler and this Cardinals offense coming off one of their better performances on the road in the rain in Pittsburgh. Kyler's numbers don't look great against the Steelers, but he operated within the offense, orchestrated extensive scoring drives to not only take the lead, but build upon that lead and really run out the clock to get that third win of the season. But Kyler Murray is still dynamic. He can still make plays happen with his legs, with his arms, but he has been more in the pocket than I think we've seen over recent years, and certainly going back to 2021. Staying in the pocket, takes good protection from the offensive line, but making sure those playmakers that he has, whether out of the backfield or the wide receiver or tight end position, get the ball into those playmakers' hands so they can do a lot of the work. I don't think Kyler feels like he has to do everything upon his shoulders as it may have been his first 4 seasons in the league.
Well, the 49ers defensive line was dealing with some injuries at defensive tackle this week. But Craig, as you look at San Francisco's pass rush and really their front seven, what do you think of in that matchup against Kyler, the Cardinals O-line, and the run game factor?
It's scary. You look at it not only on the defensive line, but all 3 levels. But the key is going to be that offensive line. Can those offensive linemen keep a Nick Bosa, keep an Eric Armstead, keep a Chase Young away from Kyler Murray and into the backfield? Because that's the one thing that this 49ers defense has been so impressive all season long is they bring the pressure, but they don't need to blitz. So you can drop 6 or 7 guys into coverage, and that certainly is a great advantage for a defense and makes it much more difficult for a quarterback. So can Kyler Murray have the time in the pocket to throw and get that ball out to his playmakers? And his best playmaker so far recently has been tight end Trey McBride. So I'm curious to see how that works against this 49ers defense. Can McBride have another good, solid outing in his second year in the league?
Well, looking deeper in the 49ers defense back in the secondary, over the past few weeks, that group has also been dealing with some injuries. But Lindsay, how have young players like Ji'Ayir Brown and Ambry Thomas stepped up for the team, and what have you seen in their performance so far?
Yeah, both of those guys that you mentioned are younger players, with Ji'Ayir Brown, a first-year rookie, and just both of them playing tremendously and allowing the 49ers to be able to just say next man up and continue rolling. Ambry Thomas has had 5 passes defensed and an interception over the last 3 games. Ji'Ayir Brown, 2 interceptions since stepping in for all-pro safety Talanoa Hufanga. As you mentioned, that 49ers secondary is dealing with a number of injuries. What we saw against the Seattle Seahawks is Ambry Thomas and Diamador Lenore playing on the outside, and Isaiah Oliver coming in at the nickel position. And then as far as safeties, it's been Ji'Ayir Brown and Tashawn Gibson Sr. on the back end. And they've been playing really, really well. And this is the time of the year, week 15, where it's normal to have those injuries, and just to know that you have guys that can step in and continue to play at a very high level, no matter how young they are in the league, has been really, really big for the 49ers. It's going to be big in week 15 as cornerback Charvarius Ward is dealing with a groin injury. His availability is in question for week 15. I'm sure we'll get more updates, but head coach Kyle Shanahan said that he has a possibility of possibly returning to practice later this week, and we'll see what happens for Sunday.
Well, divisional matchups tend to bring the best out of players. So, Craig, what's something you're most looking forward to watching this Sunday? What's something you're keeping your eye on?
The Cardinals' run offense against the number 1 rush defense. Is James Conner able to do what he did against the Steelers defensive line? And that is basically run through and find holes that the offensive line was able to open up. Conner is the head of the snake, if you will, as far as this offense goes. If he goes well, then the offense goes well. Yeah, Kyler Murray, you need a good quarterback, but James Conner has kind of been that heart and soul on the offensive side. He's playing good football, 25 touches against the Steelers, a season best. Now coming off a bye week, there's going to be a lot of players that are going to be a little bit, I wouldn't say healthier, but at least rested for this matchup on Sunday. And then to see whether the Cardinals get one of their wide receivers back, Michael Wilson, who's been dealing with a shoulder issue and now most recently a neck issue. Is he able to go this week, which would certainly help Kyler Murray and company?
All right, so before we wrap up this episode, we like to share bold predictions for the upcoming game. So, Craig, do you have any bold predictions for the Cardinals on Sunday?
Bold prediction. How about this? The Cardinals have not had a 300-yard passer in, 22 regular season games. A bold prediction, how about Kyler Murray throwing for more than 300 yards against this vaunted 49ers defense?
Okay, and Lindsay, your bold take for the matchup?
The 49ers defensive line has been so productive over this 5-game stretch coming out of the bye. So I'm going to predict another 5-sack game coming up in week 15.
Well, we'll just have to see. So faithful, tune into the game. The week 15 matchup is set to kick off at 1:05 p.m. Pacific time this Sunday on CBS. But that will do it for today. Thank you so much, Lindsay and Craig, for joining me in this update. Don't forget to follow First and 10 on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Turn on the notifications so you're in the know when we post any breaking news updates. And thank you, Faithful, for tuning in.